Every few days, a trending repo card blows up on X and disappears just as fast. This one is different. Public APIs is not selling a new AI wrapper or a glossy dashboard. It is a giant, collaborative directory of public APIs for developers. The question is whether that actually becomes useful in practice, or whether it is just another huge list that looks impressive for one scroll and then gets ignored. The post itself is just an automated trending card. No demo video, no walkthrough, no narrator. It links straight to the GitHub repo for marcelscruz/publicapis. During review, the repo was sitting at 8,756 stars, 858 forks, and 117 open issues, with a homepage link pointing to publicapis.dev and an MIT license. So the honest read is this. The tweet is only a signal. The real product story lives in the repo and in the live browsing surface behind it. Once you open the repo, the shape of the project becomes clear. This is not a full-stack application repo for the website. The center of gravity is the README, a huge markdown catalog of APIs grouped by category. Then there is API.md, which explains the machine-readable contract, plus a tiny generation script called updatedb.js. That script parses the markdown, pulls out categories and table rows, and writes fresh JSON into the DB folder. In other words, the repo is curation first, with a lightweight data generation layer on top. That generation flow is not theoretical. I ran the repo locally and regenerated the database files. The result was 52 categories and 1,573 resources. The mix is practical, not uniform. Development leads the directory with 156 entries, followed by categories like geocoding, games and comics, and government. Authentication also tells the story. A big chunk of the list works with no auth at all. Another big chunk needs an API key, and a smaller slice depends on OAuth. Most of the directory, 1,499 entries, still points to HTTPS endpoints. The live site is where the repo becomes easier to use. Publicapis.dev turns that giant markdown list into a searchable directory with a category sidebar, resource cards, and dedicated detail pages. On the home page, the important affordances are visible immediately. You can browse by category, search from one surface, and move from broad discovery into individual entries without digging through raw markdown. One small detail is worth calling out honestly. The site sidebar showed 1,571 total resources during capture, while the regenerated JSON returned 1,573. That is a minor live count drift, but it is real. The best proof of usefulness is the drill down flow. On the weather category page, the site exposed 36 entries during capture, which is already more helpful than staring at a giant master list. From there, an individual resource page like Open-Meteo gives you the exact shape you want for fast evaluation: title, category context, short description, and a focused layout that makes quick comparison easy. It is not a deep API client. It is a clean discovery layer that helps you decide what is worth opening next. To make sure this is more than a nice catalog, I also tested real endpoints from the directory. Open-Meteo returned a live forecast payload. Dog CEO returned a random image response. REST countries returned structured data for Japan. Spaceflight News returned a fresh article feed. All 4 calls came back with 200 OK responses during the source pack run. That does not prove every API in the directory is healthy, and the repo never claims that. But it does prove the directory points to live, working services, which is exactly the kind of evidence you want from a resource hub like this. So the verdict is pretty straightforward. Public APIs is not a flashy product launch, and it is not pretending to be one. It is a well-maintained discovery layer backed by a simple, reproducible data pipeline and a live browsing surface that is easier to use than the raw repo alone. The strengths are coverage, searchability, and fast evaluation. The limits are also obvious. Some APIs need keys, some entries will age over time, and the live count can drift a little from the generated source. But as a starting point for prototype research, this is genuinely useful.